Welcome to Retirementals, a podcast that dives headfirst into the issues facing the financial sector at the intersection of investment, technology, and financial advice. Hosted by Abraham Okusanya, you can expect raw honesty, critical analysis, and energetic interviews. Here is your host, Abraham Okusanya.
Hello and welcome to Retirementals. I am thrilled, excited even, about my guest today. He'll be known to many of you. Nick Lincoln is the chairman, founder, CEO, and solo advisor at Values to Visions Financial Planning, a host of the soon-to-be award-winning financial comedy podcast, and Andy Hart's long-lost uncle. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Nick Lincoln.
Thank you, Abraham. I can't argue with any of that. That's all on the nail. Well done.
It's been a long time coming, hasn't it? I've wanted to have you on the podcast for a while, and I finally spoke to your PA, who then referred me to your executive assistant, and we managed to get you in the diary.
Yeah, I've got a lot of doorkeepers and barriers to get through to get to me, but you persevered, Abraham. Well done.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm excited about our conversation today. Wide-ranging conversation, about investing, the business of financial planning, and all that stuff. But before we do that, tell us a bit about the enigma that is Nick Lincoln and the V2V financial planning as a practice.
Okay, we'll do. So I am, what am I now? I'm 54 this year. I've been in financial service, like nearly everybody, Abe, who you talk to in this profession. I kind of stumbled into financial services in 1993 and worked for an insurance company, became a broker consultant. And in 2001, I sort of crossed to the other side of the floor and became an IFA and worked for a traditional broker firm. They were decent, but they were 3+1/2, group personal pensions, investment bonds, PEPs and ISAs, no financial planning. Became a director there. And then in 2008, I had this epiphany. Another Marmite figure. I think the two of us are Marmite figures. And there's the third one is definitely Paul Armson, who I think is a force for good, but he does rub a lot of people up the wrong way, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I went to a seminar with Paul Armson, and fun enough, Tina Weeks was there as well. That's the first time I ever met Tina. And Paul Armson was talking to us about cash flow modeling software and proper financial planning. And it blew my socks off. I didn't even realize I was looking for this until I was shown it. And I thought, wow, I can't go back to my 3+1/2 IFA job anymore, pushing products without the context of a financial plan. It was literally like a light bulb moment, So I went back to my firm and said, listen, I've this financial planning business, this cash flow modeling, this is the future. And I tried to force into the business, and it didn't really. They let me do it on my own, but they were never going to change. And I thought, you know what, this is going to just rankle with me. And so I left that firm on good terms. I'm still friends with one of the my former directors there, but I went out on my own and I took some of my clients with me, all above board. I said to the guys, listen, I'm going to say goodbye to my clients, just out of courtesy. I'm not going to walk away and set up a new firm, not tell them I'm going. That's bloody rude. And what's going to happen. These people, I hope, are going to say they want to come with me. All right, let's be grown up about this. And that is what happened. So I took some clients with me, but I waived my shareholding. That was the quid pro quo. I gave them back my shares for no value. And I thought that, and it all worked out fair and square. So I started up my own business in 2008, offering full fat financial planning to all new clients without exception. No one-off transactional stuff ever. The plan is paramount. The plan determines the portfolio, which we'll come on to in terms of attitude to risk and everything else. And that's what I've done since then. I've been RDR sort of friendly from the get-go. I charge on a assets under management basis, but it's always been via a platform. It's always been agreed between me and the client, and I've got no issue with that. We can talk about that if you want. Where am I now? I look after about 70 families, Abe. Excuse me. And it's a lifestyle business in the truest sense of the word. I preach lifestyle financial planning to clients. Live the life you want to live. Make sure you've got enough, but once you've got enough, live your life, because you've only got one go. and it's not a rehearsal. And my business is a lifestyle business, 70 odd families. My turnover, I know you've had some big hitters on here. My turnover will make them laugh, but my costs are really low. My turnover is about 250k a year. It's all recurring. I don't charge initial fees. I don't take any initial fees. But my profit margins, I imagine, are very high. Before I paid myself a penny, my profit margins are around 86%. And even after I paid myself a salary and a proper 40k pension contribution, my profit margin is still 67%. So it's very lean, my business. And I mean, it helps that my current wife, Penny, she's a head teacher and an outstanding head teacher. And when I first saw her, I thought, there's a good looking defined benefit pension scheme attached to an even better looking girl. I better get involved with her. So so that does help as well. But my business is ultra lean. I pay myself, there's the normal, dividends of 9k, salary 91,000. There's 100k, right? I don't want to pay 60% tax, 40k employer pension contribution. It gives me enough. And that's where I am today. And being my own boss, I'm a bit like you, Ava, right? I'm probably unemployable. So I appreciate and I'm grateful with the fact that gives me latitude to be very frank with both my peers, but also my clients. It's a very, what you see is what you get relationship with me. And it's just telling the truth about money all the time, doing that within the context of a financial plan. And that's the handsome young man you see in front of you.
It's incredible, Nick. Thank you for your honesty and transparency. I like this, especially, I mean, the whole thing you've just gone through, and you're softening me up because, I want to have a brawl with you about some issues. Maybe we will get into it, but the honesty just blows me away, right? Because, I ask people sometimes about their numbers and they're like, I'm like, we're financial planners. Why are we so cagey to talk about revenue, salary, earnings, and until we demystify these things, I don't think we have the moral authority to tell other people not to get cagey about money. But anyway, that's my...
No, and so just, can I throw in one more thing? I meant to say, Abe, sorry. I mean, I'm not a big fan of all these business sort of guru books that are out there. I mean, the market is just awash with them. I mean, there are two books that I think are really important and have helped me. One is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, which should just be given to every child and should be.
I read that in secondary school, but
But the other one is Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, the late Stephen Covey, and one of the habits was begin with the end in mind, and I've built my entire business around that, and I don't talk about that enough. To those that are interested to listen, I when I set up my business in 2008, I thought, okay, what kind of lifestyle do I want? And what is that lifestyle likely to cost both now and in the future? And I worked back everything from that. So I thought, okay, what turnover do I need to give me that income to fund that lifestyle? And if I need that kind of turnover, how many families can I support to give me that turnover? And what fees do I need to charge each family? It really is a business where I've fashioned it to give me the lifestyle I want. And beginning with this end figure in mind, I built a business back from that. Whereas I think a lot of financial plan, and hence why I'm very open with the figures, because those figures are that's what I need. That's what I built my business around. I think a lot of financial planning firms just kind of either organically or just by accident sort of stumble to a level, and I'm not sure they've always got a purpose and a drive behind them. And I think that probably can lead. That's probably why there are some issues in the financial planning business as well. That's why a lot of financial advisors, I don't think, aren't great entrepreneurs. And that's not a curse. You can't. I'm not saying I'm not really an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur, I think, is someone who disrupts and sets up something new. But I do own my own business. But I've always done it with the end in mind. So I don't pursue massive numbers, because I think that leads to heartache and stress. And probably complaints from clients who don't feel loved because you've just got too many clients and you're trying to be all things to all people. So I am very kind of dogmatic about this, beginning with the end in mind and working back, work out what you need and work back from that. And I think doing that is a way to have a really nice, profitable, happy business and business owner. Sorry, Ed, go on.
No, it's good. I mean, it's like, we're approaching this from, a completely different or opposite angles, even. I have run, a small business or small boutique, solo-ish practice. I agree with Finalytic to 5 people, £500,000 revenue and all that stuff. I want to build a big business. I want to scale a business and, grow stuff and things like that. But always amazes me that this phrase of lifestyle practice has always somehow become what is it? Like an insult or derogatory. And I don't think it is. If you want to build a practice that is, just you, and fitted around you as a person and your lifestyle, and don't want employees, there is nothing absolutely wrong with that, is there?
No, I don't think there is. I mean, some people enjoy being workaholics, and that's fine. And I get a lot of validation from what I do, Abe. I mean, I love what I do. I love my clients. I love the peers. I love doing this kind of stuff. So I'll probably keep on doing it till my dying day, as long as I've got my faculties. Not because I have to from a monetary point of view, because obviously I've got a financial plan, as I said, and I've worked, and I'm sorting away for my future self. And I love it because I'm not burnt out by it. Again, the firm where I work, it's funny, the lessons you learn from other people are sometimes what to do and often what not to do. And when I worked at my previous firm, they were busy fools. They just couldn't say no. They were doing PEPs and then ISAs for kids, for the children of clients. That were I could see this. This was just a disaster, not profitable. Because they just couldn't say no. And the director would come in at the weekends to do his reports. He was always at the office. He was always there late at night. And I thought, whatever else I do in life, I do not want to be a busy fool, And I think, my financial plan is predicated on me never selling the business, probably giving it away at some stage. Or just not taking any more clients on, and one day there'll be just me and one other client, and that'll be it. No, so if I do sell it, great, that's just icing on the cake, but there's no way I'm hanging my financial plan on a one-off arbitrary event. You know what regulation is like. It could come in next year.
4 times revenue. 4 times revenue is the going rate. You don't want that. That's
if I get it,
quid in the bank.
No, if I pass my business on, I want to give it to someone who I really like and trust, who will look after my clients. And if they want to give me some money as a thank you, all the better. But there's no way I'm living my financial plan waiting for that one event to happen. Because again, I think that's just things will change, my friend. And suddenly it won't be 4 times, it'll be 1 time. It could be 10 times. But why? When I'm building financial plans with clients, I won't allow clients, because I'm quite bossy, as you might have guessed. We don't build plans around like a future inheritance. Because you don't know when you're going to get it. You don't know how much it's going to be. You might fall out with mum or dad. The will might be. There's no way you can build a plan on an event that's 20 years hence, that so much of the plan hangs on that one event. That's not a plan. That's just a fingers crossed, and let's hope this pans out. And that's not financial planning. So, yeah,
that's incredible stuff. So let's move on. We've just ended year 2022, right?
Yeah.
Which was an interesting year for financial planners and the investment market. How was it for you? What's your overall assessment of the investment market, the conversations you've been having with clients in the past year?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it was a very interesting, in quotes, interesting year. Yeah, for sure. And obviously since January the 1st, since the very start of the year, the S&P 500, the great companies of the USA, and really by inference, the great companies of the world, we're still in a bear market, right? Insulated to a degree by the dollar's appreciation against all currencies, including sterling and the holy euro. So that kind of insulated the losses to a degree. So clients didn't feel that. And I will come on to bonds in a moment, because I can feel you itching to talk about bonds. But again, in the annual planning meetings I have with clients, we just don't talk about. I've coached my clients. We just don't focus on the investments. I would say if an annual planning meeting takes 50 minutes, 60 minutes, 3 minutes are spent on investments, and I'm trying to whittle that down. If the clients bring it up, I'll address it. I won't. I'll say, well, the declines are temporary, the advance is permanent. I think actually, we were overdue a temporary decline of some magnitude. This is, and as you know, for accumulators, this is like sale time. Pile in. For decumulators, you have to be a bit more careful, and we'll come on to that as well. The fixed income side of things, it's just a problematic year, and I don't see interest rates going any other way than up a little bit more, which will probably drive down bond prices further if it's not already in the price, perhaps. I think the time has come for us to reassess what bonds are and what a fixed income product means in a rising cost world. I don't think there is much place for them anymore, and I think we have to be more direct and brutal with clients about the transformative beauty of owning equities in a long-term portfolio, and having adult conversations about riding out the temporary declines. And likewise with bonds, you can lump in smooth funds and with profit and all the other crap that's been out there for years that really is toxic, I think, in a world where inflation, if inflation reverts to its long-term average of around 4 or 5%, that's a lot more than it's been for the last 10 years or so. But it could go higher than that. The 70s, it was always double-digit inflation, and we somehow just got used to it. But you have to change. You have to change the way you invest if you're going to that kind of environment. I just think that the last year for bonds has made me realise that I don't really see what point they have anymore. Even as the sort of buffer pot in a client's financial plan. The sequence of pots that you can access to try and get past was it pound cost ravaging, your phrase. I don't know what. Yeah, it's given me pause for thought, young man. Anyway.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So since you opened that door for a bond brawl, let's have a bond brawl. I mean, we are both in agreement that the returns from the equities is what drives our and our clients' financial plan. For the purpose of full disclosure, I am invested in 100% equity, value and small cap exposure. The same thing. What we call classic portfolios here at Timeline. 100%. I have a little bit more factor exposure than our portfolio 100, which will be 25% into small, 25% into value, and then the rest in market weighted. So
plain vanilla tracker.
Yeah, absolutely. But the point is, though, the role of equity, and in all of my writings, including, the safe withdrawal rate framework, we've always demonstrated that equities does better than any other mixture, maybe apart from 90-10, but any other mixture of equities and bonds. But your talk at home just got, humans under management just got me. It was a brilliant talk, by the way, great talk. But this idea that I constantly struggle with, to say that, look, there's no room for bonds in the portfolio, not even 60-40, everybody that walks through the door is going to get 100% equity portfolio. I have to be honest, I struggle with that concept, because people are just people, they are humans. And how can they tolerate the volatility if they're not as educated? I mean, remember, this comes to you as a second nature, right? Like this idea of, but you've been doing this, 25, 30 years, and with all due respect, Nick, it took you 15 freaking years to figure this out, right? To get to this point where you went to the seminar, Paul Amson, and then we all met our legendary Nick Murray. You look at this. I have it.
Yeah.
I have the whole thing. Now, by the way, I didn't bring these books up because I was talking to you. They were sitting in my desk. Nick Murray's script, Around the World with Nick Murray. It took us all so long to figure this out, and then my journey looking at the data and all that stuff, to think that we can translate all of that knowledge, all of that passion, all of that data to a client the first minute they walk out in the door, or even a year into the journey. It's a tall order, isn't it?
It's a commitment to your craft and your passion, but it can be done. By the way, thank you for commenting on my talk at Hum. I will address your point in a second. I saw you speak at the PFS festival with that bloody awful technology and those slides that kept jumping on. And you did very well. But you mentioned my name a few times in your tech stack speech. Do you know what you called me? You didn't know you were doing it. I don't think you called me Lick Ninken. Lick Ninken about 3 or 4 times.
It's a tongue twister because you have to say the N word twice. Not the N word, but like Nick. Link.
You can do it. Come on, say it.
Nick Lincoln.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, now we put that to bed because that's been bugging me for months, Abe. I just want to get back at you. Is it a tall order for? Yes. Okay, you're absolutely right. So I was once one thing, and then I've sort of transmogrified into a different thing. Was when the world was revealed to me that actually the product is not primary, the plan is primary, and you're right. I had to change. I had to change my whole mental approach. Having done that, I have found out that actually, I found to date, touching wood here, that actually, you know what, prospects, because we are always prospecting for business, and prospects is not a bad word. Prospects can be converted to educated clients who get that the markets are volatile and that volatility is your friend. And I can't say it enough. If your business is built around financial planning, and the financial plan is primary and the products, the investments are definitely secondary, actually clients don't panic because they see it in the context of their lifetime. They see it in the pretty graph, right? Blue is good, red is bad. As long as there's enough blue on the chart, even after a shitty year of market returns, they don't actually care. And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, so I became somehow I got through the registration process to become an IFA in May 2001. Okay, so that was that was the tech unwinding. It was 4 months before 2 planes flew into those twin towers, and the Iraq War. For that early bear market, 2000 2003 was savage, right? That was down. The S&P was down 57% or something. I can't remember what it was. And then we had a period of growth, and then we had the great financial crisis, 2007 to 9. And then we had the great bedwetting reaction to the Wuhan flu. And now we got this current, the cost of lockdown crisis hitting the markets. So I've been through various bear markets and served my clients. And hand on heart, Abraham, in all that time, I've never had a single client disinvest, do the wrong thing, because they're educated from day one. And I think you can. I think we sometimes patronize people, and yes, we do this all the time, so it's second nature to us. But I think lay people who know nothing about investments and don't really care can be educated enough to stop them self-harming, because that's what my entire business is built around. And you're paying me for my behavioral coaching, and I give away the portfolio selection and the rebalancing and a top-class responsive service. And I kind of give away the financial planning. You're paying me to make sure you don't blow up the financial plan. That's where the money comes from. And just by constantly reinforcing to clients every year, I go through a little education session with my clients at the annual planning meetings that these declines are totally normal and this too shall pass, and turn off the news. It is not your friend. The message is always consistent. I don't change my investment philosophy. I don't change my funds. The plan is primary. And if you use the same phrases with people and you're honest and you're direct, and if you can bring in some humor as well, because it's quite a dry subject, It is, pensions and ISAs. They're dull as dishwater, right? For us, God knows what people who don't really know what they are think about them. I push back, Abe. You can educate people. And I think for too long we pandered. We looked down our noses at the great unwashed and thought they don't get markets and they never will do. But they can, as long as they've got someone on their shoulder saying, "Don't do that. Don't panic. Don't sell on the dips. Don't go into crypto. Don't go into gold. Or don't read the Daily Mail money supplement. Don't read any bloody money supplement because it's not there to help you." But they don't hear this. There's no one doing what we do out there, right? It's just us. And most people don't have us on their shoulder and they make mistakes. But I think if you've got an empathetic behavioral counselor working with you, I think you can get through it and you will not sell on the, you will not do those things that blow up your own financial plan, which negates the need for these bloody products that give up the permanent long-term return to ride out the short-term volatility. That's a long way of saying bonds. They don't have a place.
Yeah, you're very persuasive. I tend to agree. I like this. This certainly appeals to me. This idea that we shouldn't patronize people, or that we do patronize people when it comes to investing, and we're kind of saying it's kind of elitist, isn't it? Like, you can't understand it. We've been doing this for 20 odd years, but people can, as you say, if you go through a methodic approach with them. The other thing, though, is, again, one thing I disagree with you on is how you get to that point. I am a fan of getting people to invest in as much equities as they can reasonably hold, and 100% will be the nirvana. But how do you get them there is the question. So I hear you're a big fan of risk profiling tools, right? Talk a little bit about that one.
Sure. And let me just I'll just come back on one point. One of the reasons I think in the past that we have had these products that ameliorate the volatility so people don't panic is because we've had basically a lazy IFA sector that wanted an easy product to sell. And they wanted their 3% commission, or in the olden days on with profit bonds, they wanted their 7 or 8% initial commission. And it was an easy sell, right? You could go and see Mrs. Miggins a year down the line when the markets have fallen by 20% and say, well, your bond is still the same value, or actually you've just got your reversionary bonus and it's gone up by 2%. So there's an awful lot of that driving it as well, historically. So I don't have all my clients in 100% equity portfolios. I'm having conversations with older clients in terms of the length of the relationship about moving them to a more equity-based portfolio. But most of my clients are on either 80%, 80-20, and certainly all new clients, and without a shadow of a doubt, all young clients go into 100% equities because it just doesn't matter. It doesn't. And I say, the greatest crime you can do to a client is give them an online portal where they can log in and see the valuation. It really is. It's up there with those bastards who sit in the middle lane on the motorway. They should be shot. You don't want people looking at their valuations. You want them looking once every 30 years. That's the ideal time to look at your valuations. The financial plan determines the return you need to get, right? And for most clients, they need a significant return over inflation to make sure their financial plan reaches fruition and that they can leave a legacy to those they love. Okay, most people want to leave something to their children, something of significance, and if not to their children, to their causes and their charities and so forth. And all the studying I've done, and all the 100 years of market data indicates that you're going to get the kind of return you need to amass significant, purposeful wealth by investing in the great companies of the world. Attitude to risk questionnaires, again, they're a sop. There's something from a bygone era that thankfully I think is behind us. But basically, you're giving Mr. and Mrs. Petrified a mumbo jumbo questionnaire. They don't know what the hell they're being asked. They don't want to feel embarrassed. They'll always go for the middle one, not too hot, not too cold. They'll always end up with a 60-40 crappy portfolio, of which nearly half is in assets that won't keep pace with inflation. And yes, you've ticked the compliance box and maybe you can sleep at night, but when those clients run out of money at the age of 86 and you've long retired, somewhere in the ether, you're going to get, Satan is waiting for you. He's putting logs on the fire, because that's where you deserve to go. Just because you tick the box doesn't mean it's the right thing for the clients. Attitude to risk question, mumbo jumbo questionnaires are another. I know there's a lot of money been made off them. I'm going to be careful what I say. I think they're a con. I think the people that there are thousands and thousands of people in the last 30 years who've gone into portfolios that are entirely inappropriate for their actual life needs, but the compliance box was ticked. And if you think that's good, not you personally, my friend, but if you in the generic, if you think that's a good way to live your life, then yeah, good luck with that. I do have. I mean, I have an attitude to risk questionnaire on it's a hidden page on my website, but it's just there to flush out the weirdos, right? It's literally it's 4 or 5 questions, and it's just to say, so I want above average returns, but I don't want any volatility. If they answer that, then I think, okay, well, hold on here. We've got someone who doesn't yet get it, but that's as far as I go on those.
That's brilliant. And feel free, by the way, though, to aim your insult at me. This is not the first time about attitude to risk questionnaire and things like that. So, or indeed anything that I espouse as a view. Now, this is where we fundamentally disagree, right? My premise, and my premise is a couple of things. One is that understanding the client's attitude to risk, whether or not you and I agree with the need to do it, the crux is that this is a regulatory requirement, right? So now I'm not saying filling a questionnaire is a regulatory requirement, but it is a regulatory requirement post-financial crisis that we understand and evidence the client's attitude to risk. Call it attitude to volatility. Call it their tendency to be afraid of what they don't understand, right? And I always take the view that there is no reason in this profession for you to lose your shirts in the process of advising clients and getting them to do the right thing for their finances, right? So I don't want to lose my regulatory, permissions, right? Just because I want to help another client, another person. I don't want to lose my professional standing, and my means of providing for my family, right? Let's bake this to the essence, because I want to help another family achieve their goal, right? So that's right. So we have to work within the regulatory environment that we are given, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that, to me, this comes down to what I call informed consent, right? So a risk profiling tool, in my view, a decent one, is the beginning of a I see what you mean. It's a beginning of a conversation with clients. And the genius, I think, we've managed to achieve in what we do at Timeline is to build the risk profile into the financial plan, right? So it used to be that you go off over there, you do this risk profile, and you set the client expectation, they come out 5 out of 10, right? And then you go and build a financial plan, and it comes out and it says, well, you need 70 equity, 80-20, 100% equity to achieve your goal. And then we start to, go aji-baji about how we get from 50 to 80 or to 100. Well, right in front of us in the same piece of technology, let me start with your plan. I build your plan for you and all that stuff. You go complete that risk profile questionnaire, and I simply show you that if you go into 50-50 portfolio, 20-30 portfolio, all your plans will be zero. All the goals will not be accomplished. The success rate is going to be using the weight of 120 years historical data. And then I say to you, I can print that plan, save it as a starting point of the conversation, and yes, to cover my back, because I don't want to lose my shirt in the process. And then I change the portfolio and say, well, actually, what if it's 80-20? What if it's 100? And everything we've built is based on data. It uses, this concept of capacity for loss is actually a fascinating one in the sense that, no, we'll come back to it, in the sense that what you tend to find is when you have a portfolio with a lot of equity in the portfolio, the worst case scenario, I always think of capacity for loss as what is the worst case scenario for your goals for the portfolio you're investing in. The worst case scenario for 100% equity portfolio is better than the worst case scenario, you do know this, over a 30, even 20-year period for a 50-50 portfolio. My point is that you can reach informed consent and you can demonstrate to the client. It's if you think of that fact that this is taking us 20 years or 10, maybe even longer to get to this, my point is that you can get the client to hold equity portfolio, and I don't see risk profiling as in the past, right? In the past, where you did these things completely separately, it is, and indeed, currently most advisors still do this. It is an impediment, but not in the world that I am living in and that I am promoting. Tell me I'm stupid. Go on.
No, I don't need to. You've just done it yourself. I'm joking. That's a very reasoned argument. Listen, it's like a bit like annuities. If annuities didn't exist, right, no one would invent them now. Okay, if attitude to risk questionnaires didn't exist, no one would invent them. I think nobody should or would invent them now. We still talk about them because perhaps it is, yes, you say the FCA say we must understand our client's attitude to risk, although there's not, as you also said, there's no, I don't think there's any actual explicit text saying you have to get them to fill out a questionnaire, but you have to have the conversation. Listen, what is risk, right? What is risk? It's not volatility, is it? Volatility is your friend. Risk is running out of money, man. That's risk. Risk is waking up one day and going to the bank and thinking, shit, we've got nothing left. I'm 83. I can't get work. I've got to sleep on a park bench for the rest of my life. That's risk. And everything we do should be building back from ameliorating the risk of running out of money before you run out of life. And everything else is window dressing. I'm sure I haven't checked out your if anyone's going to crack this conundrum of making an attitude to risk questionnaire in some way useful, Abe, I'm not blowing smoke at your bum here, but it will be you, okay? And I'm sure what you're doing is at the leading edge of it. I do what you kind of. I follow a similar process to you in terms of, and yes, mine is deterministic, which I know gives you the willies, but I do with all clients, all new clients, I run a capacity for cash scenario in the cash flow. What's your capacity for sitting in cash for the next 30 years? And for nearly all clients, it's zero. You've got zero capacity for sitting in cash for the next 30 years because you're going to run out of money, right? So the least risky thing you can do, Mr. and Mrs. Client, is invest in a portfolio that's chock full of the great companies of the world, because that's going to give you the best potential, and it's always art and science, the best potential of the money outliving you, which is what we want. So I do that, and I and that's how I get that's the risk questionnaire for me. That's how I get it answered. I do talk about the alternatives to equities, and I show them graphically the alternatives to equities, and so far, none of my clients have thought that's a viable option, sleeping on the park bench. And I'm kind of talking myself into a hole here but I've been an IFA since May 2001, as I said earlier. I've had zero complaints. Man. Just by doing the right thing and having frank conversations. And again, I'll come back to it. If attitude to risk questionnaires didn't exist, who would invent them? Back to you, my friend.
So it's a very good point. I mean, I think in a sense, we both agree on, the need for equities. I guess maybe I am more, certainly, I don't know, I be careful. I am more timid than you are, or you're certainly bolder and, in the sense that I think of this, and maybe this is, I will fall into the category of what you call, knack. Is it knack you call them?
Never advised a client. Knack.
Never advised.
Yeah, but there are good knacks and there are bad knacks. Let me qualify
That's
that.
all right. No, you don't have to dress it up. That's okay. I'm okay with the insults. That's all right. I feel that you work within the regulatory constraints, which means to me that you show the client the impact, what the worst case scenario looks like, as well as all the, the good scenario, medium scenario, how their plan fares, if they invest in cash, which is the alternative that you show. I also use data to show what the plan looks like, good case. I think of, capacity for loss as how your plan fares when everything goes to shit
Yeah.
for the portfolio you're investing in, right? That is risk. Will you be left on the bench at 80 with no money? And I can demonstrate that with data. But I agree that I'm not sure we would say if risk profile doesn't exist today, that we wouldn't invent it, because even as you would allude to, you need a way to sort out or figure out where the client is in their understanding today, right? Or whether you want to take them on. You have a framework for, what is the word? Don't onboard what is the phrase that you use?
Well, don't take on board the weirdos.
Don't take on the weirdos.
Yeah.
The
performance junkies.
Yeah, clients are going to consistently panic. But how do you know where they are? If again, I think you can have a conversation with them.
You never know anything with certainty in most things in life, and certainly not with money and emotions. And again, what we do is as much art as science. It's about intuition. It's about guts. As someone who's never advised a client, Abe, take this on trust. But you generally know within the first couple of minutes of meeting somebody whether you can work with that person for the next 3 decades or not. It's the human intuition is an amazingly strong thing, and prospects will use certain words, they'll use certain phrases. They'll want to sit like if they ask for, show me your portfolio's returns. It's like, why? Okay, that's a red flag. So you can do it.
If they say, show me your portfolio, the response should be, all right, off you go, you're done.
Yeah, I've got an ESG filter. As soon as they mention ESG, I kick them out the door. That's the filter I apply. It's very high tech. Everything that you do, and I'm talking about you personally, is about good consumer outcomes. I'm the same, right? And I think the good guys and girls in our profession, they've got consumer duty already baked in. Okay, it's all about good client outcomes. It's not about which product is best. It's about, are these people on track to live a life free of money worries now and later on when the income taps, when the employment taps are turned off? We want good outcomes for people. Everything is built around that, and everything else is kind of noise. And just a plug here in episode 10 of the Real Advisor podcast. It's an episode devoted to consumer duty, because that is the current regulatory project du jour, isn't it? And I've been through it. I've done my the hours wasted. I've done my consumer duty action plan, and it's in place. But if you go through it, you realize actually what the FCA is saying is stuff that to me is second nature. It's about transparency, low cost products, no exit penalties, ease of communication. If I have one gift, it's that I think I'm quite good at explaining abstract things in ways that people can pick up on. Okay. But ultimately everything is about outcomes. And if you build a business around that, I just think, so much of what we've inherited from the past is redundant, and we need to just almost have a fresh canvas and say, start afresh. What was good in the past is no longer works. And that includes, for me, that includes attitude to risk questionnaires. But as I say, your point is well made. You do need, that's why I have this hidden page, just to make sure that when I ask these questions, just to make sure that there aren't this massive incongruencies, that people want something from me that I can never give them. They want to see a stable portfolio growing at a linear 9% a year. Well, it cannot be done. And if you want that, there are thousands of IFAs up and down the land who will promise you that. and I'll have swanky DFMs, and you'll be given a lovely quarterly valuation bound in leather on thick cartridge paper. Some people want that, right? That's why. And I'm not going to diss St James's Place. I think St James's Place is the greatest marketing company, certainly in financial services in the UK, maybe the world, right? Ken Fisher in the States may be the other exception. St James's Place is a brilliant marketing firm, and they give people what they want. And I would rather refer my grandmother to a St James's Place partner who did financial planning over a certified, chartered IFA with all the credentials after his or her name, who does financial planning in Word only. And God knows there are loads of them out there as well. And I think for them, Consumer Duty is going to be a kick up the arse and not a day too soon.
Yeah, no, fascinating stuff. Look, we're way over time. This is how I know a good podcast are, because we're having a great conversation. I'm enjoying the conversation. There are still a lot of comebacks in my mind that I want to come back to you on, but I won't. Let's just move on and try to wrap this up. You were talking about the need to what's the word? Do away with the past, improve things, have a better framework. But your contrarian view, one of your contrarian views is that, advisor technology today is as good as it gets. It's all hunky-dory. It's all working at an issue. And then you go on Twitter and moan about how you don't want to pay £200 a month to FE Analytics. Is the advisor tech stack as good as it gets?
Oh, okay. So that you're absolutely right. That FE Analytics is a bone of contention. I've actually cancelled my subscription. No, it's never going to be. It's never going to be. And it's always evolving, man. But I mean, you can pick one thing out of 20. It doesn't mean the tech stack is. But listen, I'm a one-man band, right? So it's for me. The tech stack works perfectly. I appreciate if you're a multi-RI firm and you've got MI here and KPIs over here, and it probably is a bit of a hodgepodge. But I think the tech, crikey, the days of printing off fund fact sheets, printing off terms of business, printing off application forms, driving to clients' homes to get them to sign great big wadges of paper, absolute ball ache and drain, and I think it's pretty good now. I do think it's pretty good. I can do a cash flow update for a client in about literally an annual planning meeting for a client. I'm updating the Voyant cash flow because I think the advisor has to be doing the updating of the cash flow because it's the advisor that's going to be presenting it back, and the advisor needs to know everything that's going on in the bonnet. I can do it in about 10 minutes. And what's the problem? And I know you one of your things is about APIs and getting platforms to talk to other things in the chain. And I appreciate from your perspective, it might be a problem. For me, DocuSign, Dropbox, Voyant, G Suite, or whatever they've called their branding this year. That's Calendly and an internet connection and a decent scanner, and you're good to go, man. You're good to go. It's wow. I never use my print. The only time I use my printer is when I'm I print off the Nick Murray newsletter once a month, and even then I do it through gritted teeth. I think the tech stack is pretty good. Before we wrap up, you think you're going to get away with this, don't you, my friend? You're not. Tell me. I never understand these model portfolio services, and I've tried to look at them, Abe. Tell me why I should use, and I would use the Timeline Classic if I went. Tell me why I should use that.
Fundamentally, what we're trying to do is that the reason you should use it, actually, the reason you should use it is that you abstract all of the work involved in running portfolios yourself, the rebalancing, the research, due diligence, all these things that we have to do, right? You abstract all of that, you remove all of that, and the overall cost is the same, if not less, than your client is currently paying, because we have access to institutional share classes. You can remove all of that work and spend far more time, if needed, either with your client or sailing your yacht or your little boat in the Midlands. That's why you should use it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm always. I mean, because I'm ditching FE analytics, and the only reason I use them is because I used to print off a client portfolio report to stick on the file at the annual planning meeting. And if I ditch them, I've now.
So you get the portfolio analytics tool. So that's what for you. It's $2,500 a year, right? Because the portfolio analytics tool is included as part of the pack. You get more time to spend selling your yacht or fishing. You don't want to spend more time with the client because you're spending as much as you are, and the overall cost is the same, if not lower, for the client.
Okay, I mean, I'll keep an eye on it. And final question. This is an idiot question. If a client's got a GIA and you do rebalancing, which you do, don't you, automatically, doesn't that trigger a CGT situation?
So we don't do the rebalancing in GIA automatically. Again, this is one of the things that I know a lot of model portfolio services do. We don't. We never. So again, because we've built the technology, before we rebalance portfolio, we will send you a notification as an advisor that we're going to rebalance the portfolio. We go ahead and rebalance the pensions and the ISAs, and then we wait for you. It's a partnership. We wait for you as an advisor to instruct us to go ahead and rebalance the GIAs. Now, you can give us a standing instruction if the GIA is, paid a little amount of money, and you can say, well, these clients should go ahead automatically and rebalance them. There are clients that you don't want rebalancing, and you don't want to create, CGT for them. So again, all of that's built into the tech.
Okay, thank you. Good answer. Okay, my friend, anything else?
You turned my podcast on me. This is what you did. I have enjoyed our conversation. Look, thank you for all you do. Thank you for being a voice. There's a lot that we agree on. I think we agree on the core thing.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good. And when you did your home talk, someone walked to me, a great financial planner, walked up to me and he said to me, I don't agree with Nick because 60-40 portfolio has never done anyone much harm. And I said to them, well, I like the fact that the people, the compliancy people, they drag the profession all the way around back to the bonds end of the conversation. Right. And they never leave room in the middle, right? They just say you got to get everybody to do risk profiling, and they end up in low risk portfolio and all that stuff. People like Nick drag us towards the nirvana, and I think in the end, we'll end up in the right place. And when I look at, the portfolio, the 1.7 billion of clients that we look after today, most of them are in portfolio 70, 80. That's kind of where we see it. Will I want to get that to 90? Maybe, to 100, maybe. But, so voices like yours have been incredible in just amplifying and pushing our profession towards the best outcome for clients. So thank you very much. Your final words, where we can find you, and we'll say goodbye to the audience.
Okay, thank you. Just to be sure, absolutely, the things that bind us, Abe, are far more powerful than the things that push us apart. We are definitely aligned, and the work you do with Timeline, if there's one thing I take from Timeline, it is that equities are the safest option. Okay, and if we can just get that message out there, there's a lot packed into that statement. Where people can find me on Twitter @HatTipNick, and also @Advisor Podcast, the Real Advisor Podcast. If you're in the advice chain, you could be adminning, power planning, advising, knacking. The Advisor Podcast, the Real Advisor Podcast, TRAP, is for you, and it's built by the listener. The listener's feedback, and us four jabronis chat and chew over the questions posed by and it's going really well. So thanks, Abe, for all you do, and thanks for your time today.
Nick Lincoln, thank you very much for your time. I'll be remiss if I don't thank my incredible team who worked very hard to put this program together. Thank you very much, guys. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Timeline Retirement Planning Software and PyTech, low-cost flat fee model portfolio manager. And to you, our listeners, thank you for your time. I hope you've had as much fun listening to the program as we have making it. You can find more about the show at retirementals.co.uk, and you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is Abraham on Money. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.